Hey y'all, it's the Barkin Betty, and oh my gosh. Okay, so let's just keep it transparent for a little bit. I really feel like I'm starting to understand a lot of black grad students and how they feel in their program, right? Because it kind of gets to a point when you're at these like social events with other people, and it's like, dang, I really don't think and feel like I can relate to you outside of like an academic setting. And you feel like an outlier because you see your other non like people of color, grad students, whatever, being able to like connect with these with like other students and stuff, but you kind of feel like an outlier because not only do you not relate, but you are the only one of yourself in the program.
I can totally agree. It's kind of like when you are one of the only Black people who is in a space, it feels kind of like you're under surveillance. Like everybody's watching you, everybody's looking at you, everyone's wondering, like, who is this? What are they doing here? And I can't say that it's not something that other like I haven't thought. Like, I can say if I'm somewhere where I'm typically used to it being Black people and someone else comes, I notice them, but it's not like I'm mad that they're there, but they do stand out. If you're different in a space that's typically frequented by a certain type of person and you're new, everyone does look at you. So I can understand from both sides. So I'm not saying that it's intentionally that these different people are like staring at me, but it does feel uncomfortable as the person that everyone's watching, especially depending on how intensely they're paying attention. What I would also say is that there is a cultural difference. I remember when I was working in sales, me and my friends were talking about, and I think I'm gonna start doing some story times. We were talking about how like our vocabulary was not on par with some of our counterparts who were from places like Martha's Vineyard. Like I didn't even like what you're living. That girl was awesome though, so I'm not shading her. I love her. Okay, but the girl from Martha's Vineyard was lit, and she had this stellar vocabulary. So I remember me and like two other girls were like just talking about it. Like there was just something different about the cultures. Like we everyone is a person, but every culture is unique. It's very different. Like if you go to I went to a white party one time, and it was in Virginia, and I'd never been to a party like that. And now all the parties are kind of like that, where everyone's just like standing around talking, you know, hanging out, not really like doing much of anything. It's just like standing around. And so now like the clubs, I don't really be going to clubs, but that's how they are as far as I'm concerned now. So yeah, it's just interesting. Like there is a difference in culture, and it can be shell shocking when you kind of feel like you don't really fit in because that's not a space that you're familiar with. And it's kind of like, and then there are some people that will go out of their way to let you know that you don't belong there. So there are people, and I'm certain that that's for both sides. I'm just speaking from my experiences. There are people who will be really nice and friendly. Like I'm like that as well. I am very watchful too. Like if regardless of who you are, what color you are, if I've never seen you and you're in our neighborhood, I do pay attention, and you are like under surveillance by all the neighbors. So let's be clear there, but that's not a color thing. That's just anybody new thing. So, but with that being said, there are people who will go out of their way to let you know that they do not notice you and you do not belong here. But in showing you that they purposely don't notice you, they show you how much you live rent free in their minds. I can think of an example where I was talking to this person. We were getting some food, and this woman and this other woman were talking. So the woman that knows the guy that I was walking with, she starts talking to him and like introduces him to the person that she was originally talking to, and then just looks at me and like grits on me and keeps, and I was just like, girl, I don't know what your problem is, but I also don't know you, and I don't care enough to have this interaction with you. So I just waved to the other person she was talking to. I waved to the guy, and I just excused myself and left, because I don't care. I don't get into stuff like that. That woman clearly had an issue with herself and projected her inner thoughts onto me, and that's her business, that's her right, that's on her. Me, on the meantime, I'm finna eat and have a good time. So you stand over here with your mad self. That's between you and yourself and you. So, but she was a white woman, and there were predominantly, like, I was like one of the few black people there. So it was a little bit compounded on it, but I still ended up having a nice time. But there are cultural differences, and when you're not used to it, it can be shell-shocking. Just like going from, actually kind of had the reverse when I first moved from Montgomery County to PG County. And when I went to like the public high school, it was like nothing but black people, and I came from mainly white at first, then mixed, very diverse, and then to just like only black people. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I was in there like, because also what really sealed it wasn't that I was with like a bunch of black people, but I had never been in that situation before, and I'm black, and so I just never been around all black people. Just like I grew up, and then my mom was like, we can't, because the stuff that was happening around when I was with the all white people. So I can also share them stories as well. And then I was in a diverse area. So when I came, when I was going to the all black school, these people at my school that I was at were telling me like all of these horrible, scary stories about people getting like beat up in the bathroom, and like people getting R-worded in the hallways, like really, really, really terrifying stuff. So I have my bag or whatever. I'm going to the school. I'm already nervous. I'm already really scared because of all of these things that people were telling me before I went to the school. And then I walk into the class, and the first thing someone yells is, "Oh, she light skinned." I was like what? And I'm not even light skinned, so that was confusing. But she was like, "Oh, she light skinned," and I was just like, and I remember like I cried the first day, and I refused to go to class. But then I stayed, and I ended up having so much fun, and the quality of learning was definitely different. So I can also speak on the differences between the schools, like chalkboards in high school, which was like really strange, coming from a place that had computer screens, like really, really large Promethean boards in middle school. So I didn't understand how a high school was using chalkboards in the same state. So that was weird. And then like my AP class got, our test got void because first of all, we didn't learn anything because our teacher didn't teach us, and she was white, before y'all get in the comments. She didn't teach us anything. Like literally we would play games all class, and then they had a rap battle during the exam, so our exam was void. Okay, so we all had to deal with that because we had a lazy teacher. So that's just what it was. That's just what it was. So there were definitely differences. So I can understand that there's a culture shock when you go from one space to another. And it doesn't mean that that space is bad, but I can relate. And when I saw her like crying, it just brought me back because I was crying. And even when I had a culture shock, not even about like ethnicity or whatever, I had a culture shock of graduating college and entering into the workforce. That was a culture shock, which sent me in depression. It was horrible. I hated it. I hated going from being on the yard and being so involved in everything, and just knowing and having your friends all around you, to bam, you're in this workforce with people that hate you because they ain't you, and perverts. You go from this cocoon to being in a fire, and with no notice, thinking that you're going to the movie life, thinking that you're going to have like all of these adventures and meet all these coworkers and experience life, and you end up being bamboozled and around a bunch of weirdos. And there are some great people there, but that was a culture shock for me. And bound around racist people, if I'm being honest, because I have some stories. We won't get into it. I ain't gonna say nobody's name because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but it was interesting. I have some real stories. So yeah, I just think it was we had a time, and I feel for her, and I hope that she can learn a new culture and see it as a space of evolution, and also she can be a pioneer, and more young Black women and men can enter in her career path because she has paved a new way, and a new way of looking at careers and things. So I definitely feel for her though, and I totally understand the culture shock. And I hope that people are, giving her some grace, because she's clearly not saying it's not the situation that she's upset with. It's the culture shock that she's experiencing. It's being the only person like herself in an experience. And it doesn't mean that the other experience or the other culture is bad, but it is shocking. And I totally understand that. And that experience happens with school. That experience happens when you move. That experience happens with new foods. Like, there are shocks, and some people handle shocks with tears, and I'm one of those people. Okay, so I totally understand, and I'm excited for her journey as she continues to evolve and finds her footing and finds her way to navigate in that space. It's going to be challenging, but she seems like she has such a warm energy that I think she just, can look at it from a space of, okay, this is a new learning experience, and she will find her footing. She will find her way around. It's just new. And I'm proud of her for having the emotional intelligence and awareness to even recognize that, okay, perhaps there's something's happening here, and I am addressing it, and I'm noticing it, and I just am sharing. And so that takes a lot of courage. So as I do with my students of signature and my guests when I have interviews, signature round of applause, because that shows a lot about her character. So I'm rooting for her. All right, bye.